China hasn't ratified CTBT 18 years after its signing on it? Actually, it's a question very seldom discussed in China. Why? Because there is a wide accepted consensus on it for the reason for Chinese. The answer is, since America hasn't ratified the CTBT, we will not ratify it. It seems a little too simple, but it's true. But if we want to understand China's behavior comprehensively, we should go back to its original intention, its psychological change, its consideration of security, and its evolution of its strategic environment. Here I will raise 3 points. First, China determined to completely accept the CTBT when it is concluded. What I mean completed, accepted, is mean sign and ratify. That's true. At that time, China was in need of nuclear test, since, as we all know, the huge gaps on technology and the size between the arsenals of China and the arsenals of nuclear superpowers. But at that time, China made the decision that we will accept the permanent nuclear inferiority and support the conclusion of CTBT. We think it's like a price we have to pay to be integrated into international institution and international society. And it's also like a gesture to show our genuine support on arms control and cooperative security. Diplomatic pressures from US also play a very important role in it, since we all know in 1990s the non-proliferation agenda is a highlight in Sino-US relationship. And then the failure of US senators' ratification shocked the Chinese. China has made self-sacrifice to support the US to follow its leader to form the CTBT, but US just failed to ratify it. We all know it's due to the domestic politics, but nevertheless, it still increased China's strategic suspicion and led to the so-called wait and see tactic on this issue. The second point is the domestic opinion environment of ratification has been deteriorating in the past 2 decades. Why? In the middle 1990s, actually, the CTBT just attracted little attention in China, public opinion. There was no more obstacles for ratification after the central government made a decision. But CCS, Chinese media pays a little too much attention on American news. So in this way, Chinese people is continuously being educated and influenced by the US domestic policy debate. So then Chinese people become doubting the verification measures, the credibility of safe, secure, and effective deterrent force without a nuclear test. And people will ask, if powerful like US still needed the freedom of action to hedge for the future, how can we just give it up with both the conventional and the nuclear inferiority? We might need modernization programs that reinforce rather than undermine the status quo and strategic stability. What's more, the political climate for ratification is also worsening with the disputes over maritime territory, with the return to Asia strategy, and the worry about the long-term and low-intensity conflicts with the US and its allies. Yes, although a nuclear exchange would seem totally disproportionate to the stakes in foreseeable crisis, the intensity will keep the favorable political climate, which is helpful to the ratification, from being established. The third point is, meanwhile, China is still willing to make contributions to the test ban regime, even without ratification. China has strictly abided by its commitment to a test moratorium, a stable no first use policy, a negative security assurance provided for non-nuclear weapon states and nuclear weapon-free zones. None of the NPT nuclear weapon states has conducted a nuclear test since 1996. And China would not welcome the de facto moratorium be lifted and the international norm against testing weakened or collapsed. China supports CTBT and actively prepares for its national implementation work. China has taken an active part in all the work of Provisional Technical Secretariat. As a responsible country, China hopes that the advancement in the monitoring system and monitoring infrastructure build-up can, to some extent, offset the negative effect caused by ours and other nations' non-ratification. So here comes the conclusion. In the following circumstance, China might ratify CTBT. First, US ratification. So it will not change the strategic balance substantially. It will apply extra political pressure on China, and China will ratify the treaty to keep its tradition of keeping a low profile on all its sensitive issues. Second, positive changes of significance in security environment for China. For example, the national unification. In this way, Chinese government can redirect numerous resources to more meaningful and efficient missions. Lastly, a dramatic change of thinking mode of Chinese leaders, what means like a much more confident view on nuclear balance and a better sense of security. Thank you.